was interesting talking about this value added reseller or the change of this partner. You recently wrote this blog. It was called "The Real Value of a Third Party." And what I love about what you wrote is that too often executives see partners merely as just another source of leads, which we know that they can be, of course, right? Here at Allbound, we generate leads from partners, but what additional value can partners bring, particularly to these rapidly growing subscription based types of companies?
Great question. Great question. So really three areas. Like services, as in implementation services, is obviously one component, and a partner can really make significant, really nice margin if they take on that mentality. That's one. But there are two other factors that sometimes partners don't really look at, and where they can add a lot of value. One is brand awareness for the vendor, because they are essentially the extension of the vendor and the vendor's sales force in the entire marketplace. So the vendor needs to view them from a couple different perspectives, not just a selling organization, but one that can extend the brand accordingly into the marketplace. And then the third thing is, and this is very important. In fact, we did a project years ago when cloud was just starting to come to the forefront around what do partners really need to do in the cloud and how can they transform. And one of the findings of a study we did was that partners truly need to focus on domain expertise and become an expert in a certain area, whether that area is industry specific or geographically specific. And what I'm getting at is the more the partner can be an expert in a certain area, it's better for the vendor because that vendor can then rely on specialists that can impact a business a lot better because of that expertise in that particular area that that business may be in. So think like financial services or manufacturing or healthcare. If the vendor is looking to implement a solution into or an offering into one of those areas, it's best to have somebody that's an absolute recognized expert in those areas that they can rely on, because the value they'll bring to the customer is around the configuration and around how to best utilize the technology, et cetera, et cetera. No vendor can be all things to all people and all customers. So they need to rely on the partners to be able to do that more so.
you know, um, before I was here at Allbound, I'd worked for a software company where we had about 90% of our revenue actually coming through our channel, and we had this pretty robust partner program. But what I always found interesting was that we just took spent a lot of time and energy trying to ensure that our partners didn't run into each other, that our partners, had these sort of unique experiences, and we didn't have exclusive types of partnerships. We didn't openly talk about partners to each other. We didn't bring them all in the same room together. We kind of didn't want everyone to know that we were dating someone else, and uh,
Yeah.
and then, a few weeks ago on this podcast, I had Jared Weiss from Cisco, and he was talking about the way that Cisco's partner ecosystem really has evolved, and how today, in order for them to truly be successful in serving their customers, they need to be actively creating opportunities for those partners to engage with each other to ultimately serve that customer. It was awesome hearing that from him. I'm curious, in your interactions with the companies that you're working with today, that Channel EQ is working with, are you seeing that more of a ecosystem um, type of approach to partner programs, or do we have partner programs still operating in individual silos?
It's interesting. He's absolutely right. We've done work with Cisco, and it's entirely critical for an ecosystem like Cisco to be able to have their partner community collaborate with one another. So the answer to your question is yes, we're seeing this, and we think it's a really important component. And we saw this actually 3 years ago when we were doing this study around cloud and everything. One of the key factors was to teach partners how to partner with other partners. So it was helping them build their ecosystem out. And then I need, and that's exactly what Jared, I think, is referring to. Is if they can create that, then they can come to market with best of breed partners that don't compete with one another per se, but that are just focused in one particular area and they're just rock solid good at it. And that is ultimately what's best for the customer. So yeah, we see that partnering mentality starting to rise up, if you will.